Are we live? Are we live? We're live!
We're live! Hello guys, how are you guys doing? My name is Robin and this is Laura, and welcome to another one of our live sessions. We are the team behind BackpackerGuide.NZ and we're here to answer all your questions about traveling around New Zealand.
Yeah, so if you're new to this channel, this is BackpackerGuide.NZ, which is the largest travel guide for New Zealand. And our website has literally everything to do with traveling in New Zealand. If you need any practical advice on all those like nitty-gritty things like arriving at the airport and biosecurity to working holiday visas and all that sort of stuff, we have information all about that on BackpackerGuide.NZ, as well as some awesome travel destinations around New Zealand. And not just all the main hotspots, we talk about all those little hidden gems that you can find in between. And also every single Sunday at this time right now, New Zealand time, 8 a.m., we do this live Q&A session where you guys can come along and ask anything about traveling in New Zealand, and we will do our best to answer those questions for you. And we actually do get questions throughout the week, which we actually write down and do a pool of questions so that we can go through some of those questions for you guys every single Sunday. So you won't miss out if you can't actually make it to the live stream. And then we do repost all these videos throughout the week so you guys can check it out throughout the week. So make sure you subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any of those videos. So let's talk about what time it is in the rest of the world right now. Hopefully, if this is up to date.
Is it still correct? Please tell us if you are currently in India, tell us if it's 12:30 a.m. If you're currently in Europe, UK or France, tell us if it's 7 p.m. on Saturday. And tell us if you're in the US right now and it is Saturday at 2 p.m. EST or 11 a.m. PST. Just tell us what time it is, basically where you are. Just that's going to be pretty handy. But that's usually the time every single week that we're here. So again, this is Saturday at those times because that makes it Sunday.
Sunday for New Zealand?
Yeah, New Zealand time, yeah.
So shall we, I'll just go through where you can actually ask the questions. If you can't make it to the live chat, which is obviously the best place to come, if you do want to ask any questions, and we make sure to answer as many questions as possible, just stick them in the live chat right now and we'll go through them in this session right now. But otherwise, you can leave your questions with us throughout the week and we will get them all together. So you can stick any of your questions in any of our YouTube videos in the comments section. And you can also, you can find obviously on the channel that you're on right now. Alternatively, we are on Facebook. If you just search Backpacker Guide NZ and send us a private message with your question, and we'll keep that. We're also on Twitter at BPK Guide. Ask your question there as well. And finally, we are on Instagram at BackpackerGuide.NZ. So send us a private message there, and that's the best place for you to put your question on Instagram. So shall we move on to our very first question of the day?
First, I want to say hi to the chat. Come on, there's plenty of people.
Yeah, there is quite a lot going on there.
First up, Daz Jat confirms that in Scotland, which is the same as England, right? It's 7 p.m. So cool, we got the time right. Good morning, Daz, by the way. Good evening for you. Rugby lover, hello, nice to have you on board. Jyothi, I think Jyothi's name. He's from Kenya, which is quite cool. It's 10 p.m. in Kenya right now. And we also have Matt Mack, which actually confirms the American timings is correct. And yeah, so good morning, everybody. And we're going to get started with the question while you guys get warmed up and start writing questions. We actually have received quite a lot of questions. And I want to get started with Abhishek. So Abhishek says, he asked that on YouTube. You can comment below any of our videos. And he asked, hi, Tim. Is the month of March peak time when tourists arrive for holidays? And what is the weather in general in March? All right, so to start with the beginning of your question, March is actually the end of the busiest season in New Zealand. This is the end of the peak season. So it's still a little bit busy, but it starts dying down. So it's pretty good. So one of the main tips that we give to people that want to travel in March is to still book a little bit in advance because there's still going to be quite a fair bit of people around, but you're not going to be in the crazy crowds that you're going to have in summer. Now, let's talk about the weather because I know you guys really like it. And again, to talk about the weather, first we're going to be using the map, yes. But I just want to point out that on BackpackerGuide.NZ, we have a beautiful article saying New Zealand weather in March. So you just have to type that on the search bar or type that on Google and find us and you'll be able to get that. All right. So I'm going to go through all the temperature first. So temperature, again, that's average, and it can vary a lot between one and the other. So just keep that in mind. But for the northern New Zealand, that will be 18 degrees Celsius and 64 Fahrenheit. Central North Island, that's Hamilton, Taupo, Rotorua, 16 degrees Celsius, 61 Fahrenheit. For the southwest North Island, we're talking about New Plymouth, Palmerston North, and Wellington. That will be 15 degrees Celsius and around 59 Fahrenheit. For the northern South Island, that's Blenheim and Taupo, that's 16 degrees Celsius, 64 Fahrenheit. For the western South Island, it's Westport, Hokitika, and Milford Sound. That's 14 degrees Celsius and 57 degrees Fahrenheit. For the eastern South Island, that's Kaikoura, Christchurch, Timaru, that would be 15 degrees Celsius, 59 Fahrenheit. And for the inland South Island, that's Lake Tekapo, Queenstown, and Alexandria, that would be between 13 and 16 degrees Celsius, which is 55 to 61 degrees Fahrenheit. And for the southern New Zealand, that's Dunedin, Invercargill, that's 14 degrees Celsius, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. So again, that's the average temperature in New Zealand in the month of March. Now we're going to talk quickly about rainfalls. And that's a good thing because there is no two different currencies right here, because the Americans don't do Fahrenheit for millimeters. So that's good. Actually, you do inches. Oh, shit. Oh, well, you're going to have to deal with that. If you're American, you're going to have to deal with the millimeters. I'm sorry. Anyway, let's start back on top. So we're talking about northern New Zealand. That's Northland, Auckland, and Tauranga. That's 140 millimeters of rain in the month of March. Central North Island, that's Hamilton, Taupo, and Rotorua. We're talking about 80 millimeters. Southwest North Island, that's New Plymouth, Palmerston North, and Wellington, and that's 90 millimeters. Eastern North Island, we're talking about Gisborne, Napier, Ruapehu, that's 90 millimeters as well. Northern South Island, Blenheim, Nelson, 80 millimeters. Kaikoura, Christchurch, and Timaru, that's 60 millimeters. The Western South Island, that's Westport, Hokitika, Milford Sound. Now, those, it's the wild west coast, right? So it does rain very often, but, not always at the same time. Yeah. And, it's usually short bursts, so don't be too afraid, but it's 250 to 650 millimeters. So, Kaikoura, Christchurch, Timaru is around 60 millimeters. Lake Tekapo, Queenstown, and Alexandria, that's 50 millimeters. And Dunedin, Invercargill, that's around 80 millimeters. So there is obviously plenty of information right here, but if you are interested in traveling in March, just rewind this and obviously just go through all those temperatures and all those things for you. Yeah. Laura, do you want to give us a few tips?
Yeah, so like Robin said, March is sort of toward the end of the summer season. So that generally means that it's actually still quite warm in New Zealand, and there will be a few very sunny days. So make sure that you do pack some high factor sunscreen while you're out and about in New Zealand. And you only need to be out for about 7 minutes until it's likely that the sun will start burning you. Actually, not even just on a sunny day, on cloudy days as well. So whenever you're going out, make sure that you do have some high factor sunscreen on, or any other type of sun protection like long sleeve clothing and that sort of thing. Also, for it is coming toward the end of the peak time for tourists in New Zealand. So it is likely to be still a little bit busy. So I would definitely recommend booking in advance if you can, just like as far in advance as possible for some things. And also make sure that you do have a day pack with you, because the weather can be really unpredictable. It can all of a sudden start raining. Even if the forecast wasn't for rain, it can rain at any time. So definitely have a day pack with you and make sure that you have a rain jacket in that day pack as well. Also, the month of March is actually one of our favorite times to go on multi-day hikes. And that's obviously because the weather's still good, but it's a little bit less busy than it is in like the middle of summer. So if you want to go out and do some hiking, then March is a really good time to get outdoors, but not be surrounded by too many people. And Yeah, also, if you're on a working holiday visa in New Zealand and you're looking for some easy jobs to get, then during March is a good time to do some fruit picking, because it's obviously coming to the harvest season for all the different fruit and like grapevines and stuff that they grow here in New Zealand. So for some quick money, which is only seasonal as well, so you're only working for a couple of months, then yeah, fruit picking is definitely going to be an abundant choice, abundant amount of jobs.
Yeah. Plentiful jobs.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So yeah, anything else you'd like to say about March?
March is definitely a great time to travel in New Zealand. Laura and I are big advocates of traveling around the shoulder season. It's one of our favorite times to travel around New Zealand, and we actually do have plenty of articles on what are the best things to do in March. Again, on this weather article, you get plenty of links. So make sure to check out in the description below. We put a link for that. And you'll have also our favorite things to do in March, the different seasons and all of that. So definitely worth traveling in New Zealand in March. It's really awesome. So yeah, check that out. And if you do have questions of your own, make sure that you put them in the comment below. And if you do find this video useful, make sure to click like and to subscribe, because, that does help us a lot. Now let's go through the live chat a little bit. Matt Mac actually has a very interesting question, which I really like. So I'm going to go with this one. So Matt Mac 1 on YouTube asks, how do you guys deal with New Zealand English being from a different country? And if you were from a different country and didn't know much English, what would you do? All right. So I think for Laura, New Zealand English compared to UK English, is there much difference actually? Or
just a few like slang words here and there is a little bit different. But yeah, that not really much. Obviously, you get on by.
Can you understand all the accents around? And
oh yeah. I mean, in England, there's more obscure accents than there are in New Zealand. At least in New Zealand, everyone kind of has very similar accents, and they're easy enough to understand. People do tend to talk quite clearly, so yeah. But yeah, easy if you're an English speaker.
So you guys know that originally I'm from France, and you guys probably know that French people pretty much suck at any foreign language. Obviously that's a generalization, but we kind of suck at languages. So I did not learn English when traveling in New Zealand. I was lucky enough to travel to other places before and to learn English, but I can give you a few tips on how did I actually manage to learn English on the go, because I left France with almost no English at all, right? Let's be honest. I could say yes, no, and Coca-Cola, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, that I could say McDonald's as well. So basically, I was all sorted food-wise. But yeah, so I went to some other English-speaking country where I did learn English as I want. But here's basically a few tips on how to learn English on the go without any background, right? The first thing that I did is I completely immersed myself. So meaning that I didn't have any French friend with me, and I didn't seek any French friend. I didn't try to talk to French to other people back home or this and that. That was really not the goal at all. My goal was to fully immerse myself in English-speaking language. So that was very important. I was trying to be very social. So I was really trying to make friends, even if I did not understand much of what they were saying. I was going to the bar with them. I was going to the party. I was going to the meal with them. And, sometimes you just sit here, but you keep on listening to that. I was also watching a lot of TVs. TV is really good because you get the visual with it. So, like, I remember watching a show called Friends, which probably everybody knows in the world, but it's such an everyday kind of show. They deal with things that happen every single day to people. They talk about things that happen every single day, and it's very situational. They are in the kitchen, they talk about the kitchen things. There are two girls, they talk about a boy, it's just very, very situational. So you see the image and you kind of explain like 3/4 of the joke, and then you get the words to go along with it. So it's very easy to learn with that. The news are also really good with that, because there is very often a lot of writing on screen. So, they will write like, at the moment they write government shutdown, and so that on the news they talk about a government shutdown or this and that. So it's it's very handy in that way. So watching a lot of TV was really good. obviously I wasn't just a tourist. I worked because I was young and I need to make some money. So working is really good. So you start, you do the shittiest job where you have to talk to no one. I was a dishwasher boy, and but working, you get your instructions in English. You have like all those signs on every wall and every kitchen that tells you what to do and this and that. So it's very handy to have so many like visual reminders and constant English. So that's basically what it was. Also, I was quite strapped for money, to be quite honest, when I started traveling. So it was either I learn English and get a job, or I just don't eat. So that's a good motivation. You know what I mean? Like when you're at school, well, if you don't do really good, well, the teacher doesn't smile, but who gives a damn? So basically that was very, very easy for us for me to learn English in that way, because I just basically didn't have a choice. So in my opinion, it's very much about immersion, right? The people that I see that struggle the most with English are people that decide to travel with their friends from back home, and they just miss on the chance to completely always speak English. So a good way to actually make some friends which are going to be English speaking, and even if it's not English speaking, let's say it's a French guy traveling with a German guy, you know what I mean? It's totally fine because they still have to speak in English, right? But, it's to use Facebook groups. When you're about to plan your trip in New Zealand, jump on Facebook groups. We link to a couple in the description below, and find a mate, like say, okay, I'm going to be traveling from that day to that date, if someone want to join me, and find a mate from the other side of the world. It's so important to do that. I find that absolutely critical to planning, to improving your English, because like that, you're not traveling with that other person that's going to speak your own language. I know it can be a bit more reassuring and everything, but traveling to the other side of the world shouldn't be reassuring. It should be an adventure, in my personal opinion. It should be an adventure. So, leave your mates back home and just come on your own and actually learn that English. If you feel like you still want to travel with your friends, maybe it'd be cool to actually take a couple of weeks apart at the beginning of the trip, for example, and you go travel your way, and then, you reunite bike later on. But it's the one way to learn English the best. And I know that it's one of the main reasons for a lot of people to travel around New Zealand, is to improve their English and be able to get back home and say, I'm fully proficient in English. I can get all the jobs I want now. So I feel like this is all the kind of ways I would do it. A lot of people like reading as well. I personally hate reading, so a lot of people read books, especially books that they read in their own language. Like, I had a friend that read all the Harry Potter, and you read them in French, and then you read them in English, and you kind of know the story already, so it makes it much easier. It's the same with shows, movies, and everything like that. So yeah, so that's basically how I would do it, to deal with how to learn English on the go. If you have very little basis for that, and it's something you can start ahead anyway. Like you're going to go to New Zealand a month or 2 months before. When instead of watching movies in English, in French, or in German, or in whatever language you want, put them in English with French subtitle, for example, and just start immersing yourself in that way. Nothing stops you in doing that. Nowadays you can do that all the time. Switch your Netflix to English, bim bam boom, you're all sorted. But yeah, that's basically would be my tip. Do you have any extra tips or anything you can think of? You UK person that never had to learn another language?
I haven't had to, but obviously I have travelled with people that have been just learning English in New Zealand. So obviously when you're in your hostel as well, everyone is going to, well, unless there's like a group of Germans that only want to speak German together or something, generally everyone in the hostel is speaking English. So even just travelling from hostel to hostel, you will be meeting people from all over the world, and they will all be speaking English. So yeah, that's like, you just find yourself in many different situations in New Zealand where you have to speak English anyway. So it's like Robin said, you just immerse yourself in the culture, and you just make sure that you're always in English speaking situations, and that's always a good thing. Also, another thing about the tips for watching TV, I remember living with a group of Swedish girls that they always watched obviously TV in English, but put the English subtitles on the bottom as well to help, so they could read the words and hear them at the same time. Was a really good way that they used to learn English. But yeah, I don't really have any more tips. No.
Oh, good. All right. So again, if you guys find this video useful, like, subscribe, come on, give us some love, some social love right here. And and if you have any follow-up questions, in the comments below. Taking the time to say hi to the chat. That was a good question, Matt. Oh, people are actually in the chat like your question, Matt. Look at you. You're a success. Lizzie actually sent us a message on Facebook. She's back from a trip. She did a trip.
Nice.
Yeah, she's already finished. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Hey, Lizzie, welcome. Nice to have you on board. So apparently she actually did complain because, no, so I wasn't on Facebook, that was on YouTube. I asked her to tell me what was her favorite part of her trip. And she said, I can pick a favorite one. But I was like, let's say like 2 weeks ago, you asked me to pick a favorite one. So. But
yeah, people always ask us what was our favorite activity out of our 365 days of 365 activities.
So hard, yeah.
It's so hard to choose, yeah.
But Lizzie said that her favorite place, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Lizzie, but you said it was Paradise near Queenstown. So
that's a really like completely random place. I guess
cool.
I guess you're a Lord of the Rings fan, maybe.
Yeah,
Paradise is where Isengard was filmed for Lord of the Rings.
And Michael from Hawaii, how are you doing, man? Glad to have you on board again. All right, so while you guys get started, if you do have any questions for us or anything like that, put them in the live chat. In the meantime, we are going to go through another question that we received. Should we go for this one?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Do you want to read it?
So I'll read this one.
Maybe.
Okay. So on YouTube, we had a question from Hannah M, and she asked, "These videos are so useful. Thank you. Please, could you maybe do one about the best ski slopes to work on in the ski season when on a working holiday visa?"
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I like it. So, well, we did discuss with Laura, and we picked like 3 that we think are going to be the best ski fields. Now, to be quite honest, Laura did work in 2 different ski fields around New Zealand already, so she has the prime experience on these things. And there are ski fields in New Zealand on both the north and the south end. A lot of people only think about the south end, but remember there is some on the north and on the south end, so it's definitely worth considering. But after this very short introduction, Laura, take it away.
All right. So the first place that I would recommend is Mount Ruapehu, which is 2 of the largest ski fields in New Zealand, and they're located in the central North Island on an active volcano, which is really cool, but nothing to really worry about. So on Mount Ruapehu, there's 2 different ski fields, and you can work for either one, but they are owned by the same company. So when you do get your ski field pass and everything, you actually have access to 2 different ski fields, which actually makes it really worth it. But the good thing about actually working in the Mount Ruapehu area is that Mount Ruapehu is only really surrounded by small villages and really small towns. So in terms of spending your money outside of when you're working, there's actually not really much opportunity to, other than to obviously buy your groceries and just, your normal everyday stuff. Otherwise, all the things to do around Mount Ruapehu tends to be hikes and outdoorsy things like that. So Mount Ruapehu is a really good base if you actually want to save some money, obviously because you're not tempted to spend all your money on like nights out and things. So yeah, that is a really good thing. But the downside of Mount Ruapehu is that there's often, it's not very consistent weather. So you might find that at least once a week, the mountain is closed. And if that's like just happens to fall on the day, one day every week when you're meant to be working, that can get a little bit annoying if you do lose a full day of work, because obviously you don't get paid for the days that you're not working. So that's one little setback from working on Mount Ruapehu. And so the places where people usually base themselves when working on Mount Ruapehu, if you're working on Whakapapa, which is the largest ski field in New Zealand, you would usually base yourself in the little Whakapapa village, which is just at the bottom of the ski slope. Well, not ski slope, but at the bottom of the mountain, or in National Park Village, another really small village where there's not really that much to do around there. But if you're on the Rotorua side, which is the other ski field, they have a slightly larger town, which does have a few more things to do. There's a few restaurants. It's more of a touristy place. So there's a lot more going on that side if you were looking for something a little bit more social, maybe. So that's pretty much Mount Ruapehu. But that's on the North Island. If you do want to experience a ski season on the South Island, a really popular place to go is Queenstown. That's pretty much whenever anyone, like, if they know only one thing about the ski season in New Zealand, they're probably going to think, oh yeah, Queenstown. So Queenstown is the polar opposite of Mount Ruapehu. It is super social, so many things to do there, but that also means that it's really expensive. Even the cost of rent is sky high. It's probably higher than like most places in New Zealand. So you will be spending a lot of money while you're working there. But on
during the winter season, Queenstown is actually more expensive to live in than Auckland.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be incredibly expensive to live and work. And most people that actually work in Queenstown do not earn enough money to be able to cover rent and food, aside from living quite far away from the town.
Yeah. So, for instance, when I was actually working in Queenstown, and I actually lived in a house with, I think, 16 other people, and I had like a sort of half converted room in the garage, and that's where I could actually find the most affordable rent. So you really have to, like, you're not going to find anything luxurious if you're trying to save money. There's definitely ways around it. Like I said, like I made it work, but it is super expensive, and obviously there's lots of bars and there's lots of reasons to spend money in the end. And also, like, groceries aren't necessarily that cheap either. Just, it is a huge tourist town, so you will be paying the tourist prices for your everyday living. So it is quite expensive. But on the flip side, there are two ski fields, which again, they're owned by the same company. So, but you do have to actually pay separate prices for the ski fields, but that, I think if you're working there, that's not really an issue. But yeah, that is actually quite hard to get a job with NZ Ski, which are the owners of Remarkables and Coronet Peak. Is very competitive. They have a lot of return staff, but if you do get the chance, it's really awesome. And their ski fields are actually open throughout. Usually, like, they have very rarely closed days, so you will be getting to work most of the time.
Yeah.
So moving on to our final place where you could do a ski season is Wanaka, which is really close to Queenstown, but it's known more as being the quieter version of Queenstown. So so you might find it a little easier to get yourself accommodation, and there's still a lot of social things to do around there, but it would be a little bit easier to save money in Wanaka than it would be in Queenstown. But as for the ski fields in Wanaka, you have actually two of what I think personally are the best ski fields in the South Island, which is Treble Cone, which is the largest ski field in the South Island, and Cardrona. But they're owned by separate companies. So usually if you're only working for one, you would have to pay to actually go to the other one, for instance. But yeah, it's another really good option. If you're all about the skiing, then you might just want to head to Wanaka, where it does have some of the best ski fields in the South Island. Is there anything you'd like to add about that?
No, I think like a lot of people just forget that there is one of the largest ski fields in the country on the North Island.
Yeah.
Now, if you just want to ski 1 or 2 or 3 or maybe like 5 times only throughout the whole winter season, and you mostly want to work, you can also definitely work in Christchurch. There's plenty of job opportunities, and then it's a short-ish drive toward Mount Hutt, where you can go and ski over there and do a nice weekend. So it's another option that is definitely worth considering. Ooh, that was a hard one. But aside from that, well, you have the best experience. So I mean, I just smile and be pretty on this one, to be quite honest. All right, but yeah. And that's basically all the info that we have for you about working on the ski field in New Zealand. Check out the article that we put in the description below, because we're going to be putting you an article about
choosing a ski field job, also what it's like to work on a New Zealand ski field.
The best ski field of New Zealand as well. Just that's the one I had in mind.
Just to make it really clear though, like the ski fields in New Zealand are usually, you are not staying on the ski field when you're working there. There's not really accommodation on the ski fields. You don't ski to your front door. You usually have to get some bus transport to get, from the nearest town or village to the ski field.
And quite often there's not even snow where you stay. You have to
go exactly. So
all
the snow is on the mountains.
Yeah, it's not this the French Alps kind of stuff, right? You're going to be staying in a village which has mostly mud and rain, and you take the bus up to the ski field. That's basically how it works. We don't really talk about the fact that you can work in the nearest town to the ski field, but not for the ski field as well. So that's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah, because like I was saying, it's quite competitive, especially on the South Island, to get jobs on ski fields. So what I did when I first arrived in New Zealand, there was no jobs left for working on the ski fields in Queenstown. So I ended up working actually at the Queenstown airport, which is actually really close to one of the ski fields. So it just works out that way. But the downside, obviously, is that you don't get the free ski field pass. But I mean, if that's what you're there to do, you just end up paying it anyway. Yeah.
So it's definitely worth thinking the whole thing, and that's why we have so much ski field content on the website. So BackpackerGuide.NZ, and all the links are in the description below. Like, subscribe, everything like that. Give us some social love at the end of this question. Thank you very much. All right, cool. So we've done those 2 questions right here. Should we do one more before I look at the live chat again?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I think we have a question from Abhishek, have we?
I think we already answered that. Abhishek, you asked us a question about the weather and everything. First, thank you very much for joining us right now. And if you rewind the live chat, that's the first question we did today. So thank you for asking the question, and your answer is rewind. Okay, cool. Do you want to do the chewy pineapple?
Of course.
I think the name is quite fun. Or do you want me to read it?
I can read it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so on YouTube, Chewy Pineapple asked, "Hello guys, we are a couple going to New Zealand on a working holiday in February. The original plan was to spend the winter in Auckland, but now I'm thinking of other cities as well as going back to the North Island at the end of the year for a summery summer. Which city all over the country would you recommend as a base for winter to save up for traveling after winter, considering job opportunities and the cost of living? Thanks, Sabina and Liam."
All right. So the main focus that you have right now is that you want job opportunities and cost of living, right? And that's really what we take out of that question. So we're going to give you the 2 cities that we feel have the best ratio, job opportunity and cost living. But obviously there's plenty of cities around New Zealand, and we always kind of end up like gravitating around the same one, but that doesn't mean some others wouldn't be the right fit for you. So what we do is that after we talk about the 2 main ones, we also give you like maybe 3 honorable mentions, for example, just to make sure that you do have a wide choice. But the first one that comes to mind is Christchurch.
Yeah. So Christchurch is actually the largest city on the South Island, and that has actually got a lot of opportunity for work and also saving money. So the good thing is that it's quite a cheap city in comparison to a lot of other cities in New Zealand in terms of rental costs. That's more if you're actually staying outside of the city centre, which is lots of opportunity to. And there's actually loads of different types of jobs to do there. So of course you have all your city type of jobs, which could be hospitality or retail or warehouse work, lots of different opportunities there. But also there's a lot of construction work in Christchurch, because if you've heard, Christchurch did have this big earthquake a few years ago, and they're actually still rebuilding the city. So there's a lot of construction jobs, and all these jobs that I'm mentioning right now, they're actually all entry-level jobs. So if you're, usually people on a working holiday visa, that's the type of jobs they tend to go for, is entry-level jobs, because it's not likely that you'll have a wealth of experience behind you. So yeah, you can definitely go and find lots of entry-level jobs there and make some money over the time that you're working there. But also Christchurch is actually a cool place to actually base yourself for doing some different stuff around and to explore the South Island. It's much better if you do have your own transport, because quite a few things are, quite a drive away from Christchurch, maybe within a couple of hours. There's a lot to do. So you can go to Kaikoura, where there's lots of wildlife activities and stuff you can do there, like swimming with dolphins and whale watching, and there's also hiking. There's seal colonies to go check out. There's also Akaroa, which is quite similar to Kaikoura in that there's a lot of wildlife activities that you can do there. But
it's the French capital.
So it's known to be a bit of a French town. So that's quite interesting to go check out, and they do some really good cheese there and baguettes. They actually do.
They do some okay cheese.
Oh, you haven't been to Barry's Bay cheese. Anyway, Yeah, and then you can also make your way toward the Southern Alps, where there's ski fields in winters, there's hiking to do up there, there's Lord of the Rings scenery you can go check out. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that you could be doing in Christchurch. So that's a good base for the South
Yeah,
Island.
I think it's a really good contender for, because you said you want to base yourself in winter. So, you know, you can drive to Mount Hurt, so you can still have the ski field experience, you know, 1 or 2 weekends during your experience. So I feel like Sabina and Liam will really enjoy Christchurch for the winter. But the other options will be Rotorua. Rotorua is on the north end, and it's almost centered. Now, it's not really centered, but it's almost centered on the north end. And it's a very, very good place to base yourself if you want some job and not too expensive cost of living. Now, in Rotorua, it's going to be more centered around hospitality kind of jobs rather than constructions, just because it's a very, very big hotspot of tourism. And even in winter, it's heaving with tourists there, because that's where all the geothermal activities are, which is quite cool. And also because this is where all the cultural things are, like, you know, we're talking about all the Maori village or the Maori stays and all those kind of things. So it's really, really awesome to live in Rotorua. And the cost of living is not too expensive. Now, the good thing about Rotorua as well is that if you do have your own transport, you basically have access to most of the North Island within a couple of hours drive, right? You can go all the way to Taupo, which is the largest lake. You can go up to Whakatane, which has like a white island, which is an underwater marine volcano. You can go to Hobbiton. You can go to Waitomo within about an hour and 45 minutes. And I think it's 2.5 hours to Auckland. If you want to go to the big city, 2.5 hours to Auckland. So you kind of have, you know, you're very central, and you can go everywhere, which is really awesome. And it gives you huge access to so many things to do. It's an amazing base, and yeah, you'll be able to save money, but you'll also be able to spend your money by doing so many awesome activities like that. So, you know, it won't feel too grindy, because that's one of the things a lot of time people contact us exactly like you guys, say, oh, which place do I need to stay, and just kind of work. But then it feels like your trip starts being really, really grindy, and that's not necessarily why you're here in New Zealand.
Yeah, exactly. If you were just doing work, then you might as well just, you know, stay at home and do, you know, go and get a job back at home. But you're in New Zealand to actually experience a different sort of way of life and actually see some really amazing stuff that is in this country. So don't make it all about work. That it would be a real shame, like, just to make it about work.
Yeah, so make sure that you find your right balance, because otherwise you always save more money at home than you will save when you're in New Zealand. So people that come in New Zealand try to work and grind to not save as much money as when they work back home. It is a fact. We see that all the time. It's it's such a big mistake that people do here. So yeah, remember that. Anyway, so yeah, that would be the two places that we will pick. But for honorable mentions, I think Napier Hastings would be a good place as well to base yourself. You know, during the winter, it gets much less busy, but you get 2 cities for the price of one. There's plenty of work opportunity over there. Which one else?
I'd say actually quite nearby, at least on the same coast as Napier Hastings, is Gisborne. That's really has like really good, quite cheap accommodation to stay there. So that would be a good one for low cost of living. Also New Plymouth, which is on the west side of the North Island. Again, quite a low cost of living. So why not? And that's really close to Mount Taranaki, which is this awesome cone volcano, and it has a whole national park around it. So you can do lots of really amazing stuff there. And one of the plus things about that is that it's actually one of the sort of quieter places. Not many people venture off that way. So it's actually like a place where often you feel like you have the whole, like wherever you go hiking and things, it often feels like you have the whole place to yourself.
I think another cool one is Nelson.
Yeah.
Nelson is on top of the South Island. It's a very sunny place. You are next to the Abel Tasman National Park. Beautiful beach, beautiful. It's more like of a summery kind of feel place. And it's called that's the winterless part of New Zealand, basically. And I think it would be a great place to base yourself for winter, just because it's a winterless part of New Zealand.
Yeah, but I know that a lot of Germans like going to Nelson. They love the sun.
All right, cool. Okay, any extra questions in the comment below? Like and subscribe if you find it useful, and I'm gonna go back to the live chat. Good morning, Natalia. That's been a while. We haven't heard from you. You're gonna do Fox Glacier in March this year. Do you recommend in advance, days, weeks, or a couple of days in advance? We'll do March, I would say about a week in advance would be good.
I
though.
wouldn't leave it a couple of days because if you are on a tight itinerary, you might find that, they don't have trips until maybe the next day, and that might not work for you. So I would try and book just as far in advance as that is actually like that you actually can. Don't leave it a couple of days.
No, just and also be aware that the weather is going to be all over the place in March. So plan yourself 2 days. We always say plan to do it in France, Joseph, and then if it doesn't work, go to Fox Glaciers or back and forth. But just make sure that you do have a backup plan. Very important. Now Michael just asked a question about going down south if you only have 5 days. I'm not 100% sure what you mean, Michael. So if you can just elaborate, maybe type your itinerary, we'll be able to answer. Now, very quickly, from Taupo to Napier, when you drive, what are the spots where you want to stop?
I've done that quite recently. So there's a few really. There's the Opepe Reserve, or I think it's called the Opepe Reserve, which is only about 20 minutes out of Taupo, and there's 2 different walks that you can do on the side of the Taupo Napier Road. There's and it goes through some really amazing forests. And that only one's about an hour and the other one's about an hour and a half. So that's a really good place to stretch your legs, even if you've only just started driving from Taupo. Another place,
but the drive's not long. Like the drive between Taupo and Napier,
it's just a couple of hours.
Exactly, it's a couple of hours. So if you have a whole day to do it, definitely stop and do a 1 hour hike. I mean, walk. It's not even a hike; it's a walk. So do the 1 hour walk. And then keep on going. Yeah,
definitely.
So it's between Taupo and Napier.
So there's another place just off the side of the road. You'll see signs for a scenic lookout. And when you get up to this little bit, which just drives off the side of the road, you'll get an awesome view of some waterfalls. So that's a really, really quick place to stop, but it's definitely worth it for the photo opportunity. And then between that, there's not really much else to stop until you start approaching Napier. And when you do start approaching Napier, you'll see a lot of vineyards and sort of fruit places where you can get some like fruit ice cream and things like that. So you can stop by at one of the vineyards to do maybe a wine tasting or go and get yourself a blueberry ice cream, because there's lots of those little stores as you go into what Napier. So
cool. Here you go. Cool. Okay, I just look quickly through the live chat. No more questions. All right, let's keep going with some more questions that people were asking for. And Monica asked, okay, so Monica sent us an email actually yesterday, and Monica said, hello, my name is Monica, and my granddaughter and I are moving to New Zealand in a couple of months. That's exciting. We have been working and saving this for the last 3 years, and we are finally making this dream our reality. We have been watching your videos and have learned so much. Thank you. We were wondering, as a first-timer living abroad, where should we stay till we learn our way around? Thank you so much for your time. Well, you're very welcome for our time. And all right, so basically you're moving to New Zealand, you want to live the New Zealand life, and you're a little bit scared right now, so you don't want to go too far off the beaten track. That's basically what we understand. So here's what we would do if we were you, okay? The first thing, I don't think you should be staying in Auckland. Just because, first, Auckland is extremely expensive. Second, Auckland absolutely does not represent New Zealand whatsoever. I mean, a lot of you guys which are literally watching us right now, if you've been to New Zealand already and you've been to Auckland, does it look like the rest of New Zealand or not? I'm pretty sure the majority of people right now will say no, or they're going to want me to be wrong and say yes. But it doesn't really. It's just yet another big city, and that will not help you acclimate whatsoever to the life in New Zealand, because usually when you leave Auckland and you go somewhere else, then you have to acclimate to a much different pace of life, much different availabilities of stuff. So you've got to know that it's so important to not stay in Auckland if you want to acclimate and learn the Kiwi life. So this is what we think. You should get out of Auckland as soon as you can, save yourself some money, and start learning more about the Kiwi life. But you're still going to want something which is big enough so you actually can kind of acclimate and slowly ease into the different pace. And so for that, we have selected 4 cities for you. And the first one on our list will be Wellington. Let's show it to you. Up here you go. Wellington is right here. This is where Wellington is, and this is New Zealand's capital city. Now, one of the good reasons to stay in Wellington is because if you do move to a new country, and that's starting a new life, you probably will need to do a lot of paperwork, and the administrative capital of the country is Wellington, so that makes it really easy.
Yeah.
It's a really nice city to live in. It's a very kind of cultural place. There's a lot of like cafes and stuff. So it's a very enjoyable kind of city life. So it is not that cheap, but if you get around the suburbs, like, you can go up to around here and still have trains that go down to Wellington in about like 45 minutes. So it goes up to Martinborough, if I'm correct, which is around here. So so you actually can be to one of the greatest suburbs to Wellington, save a lot of money on the cost of living, and be able to enjoy all the amenities of living in New Zealand's capital city.
Yeah.
Plus, you are very close to the ferry, so if you ever have the needs or the feeling of going to the South Island, you can go to the South Island in just a heartbeat, which is really good. And next up, it also has one of the major airports. So that means that you may be able to literally land in Wellington, or if not, flying from Auckland to Wellington would cost you very, very little and would be extremely available, meaning that you can literally just see the Auckland airport and get out straight away. So this is why we decided that this will be the first one that we suggest to you. Now for the next one, Laura, we have Rotorua. Do you want to tell us a bit about Rotorua?
Yeah. So if you still want to sort of stay in the North Island, just to make it clear, obviously, because if you are moving to New Zealand, the North Island is the most populated island, and that's where you'll find, there's the most services, the most transport. It actually has a very different feel to the South Island. So if you are wanting to stick to the North Island and have still those access to many different types of cities, then I'd say that Rotorua is a good place to base yourself. First of all, it is in pretty much the center of the North Island. So you can, access Auckland. It's quite a long drive, but access Wellington, and there's lots of different cities surrounding it. And the cost of life in Rotorua, as we mentioned in the previous question, is actually pretty low. So it's definitely affordable to start off when you are first arriving in New Zealand. And on top of all that, there's actually so many different things that you can do around Rotorua. There's lots of different hikes that you can do. There's the Maori culture. There's lots of geothermal parks, a lot of adventure activities. So you'll get a real good taste for what New Zealand is all about in the surrounding Rotorua area. So definitely, if you want that North Island experience and to see what the North Island is like, then basing yourself in Rotorua is a really good place. And also, when we say Rotorua, you don't necessarily have to base yourself right in the city of Rotorua. There's a lot of much smaller towns around it, which would be also cheaper to stay in, but just a close drive to all those like necessities and services that you will need to access when you are just starting up your life in New Zealand. Shall we move on to some of the South Island?
Come on, we should suggest some South Island.
Yeah, so again, if you want to just experience what the South Island's like, then a good place to start off is Christchurch. So it's around here somewhere. Yeah. Do you want to talk more about Christchurch?
Yeah, of course. So in Christchurch, obviously, it's the largest city on the South Island, so you get all the amenities of city life. It has a major airport, so same thing, very easy to get to, or even to land in, which is quite good. Plenty of job opportunities, plenty of administration, so paperwork, working. Cost of life is actually quite low, which is really good. And there is absolutely stunning things to do between the Southern Alps, the Banks Peninsula, Kaikoura, all of that within only a couple of hours drive. It is definitely a place worth considering. Plus, the fact is that there was an earthquake in Christchurch, but again, New Zealand is really good with earthquake, very low casualty rate compared to other countries and everything. But a lot of people left Christchurch. That means there are a dire needs of immigrants coming to Christchurch. So there is so much opportunity. You're going to be so welcomed. It is so good to go and start your life in Christchurch. Honestly, it is a really amazing place. We find that Christchurch is such an underrated city, and it's definitely worth going and living in Christchurch. Plus, if you're going with your granddaughter, well, you're probably the type of person that love a nice walk in the park, and so it's the garden city of New Zealand. Daughter. Oopsie. Yeah.
But anyway.
Oops.
Same difference.
But yeah, there's a lot of parks. So just the lifestyle in Christchurch is really cool because it's a garden city. So how many parks they have? Like something like
I actually don't know the name, but I mean how many?
It's tens and tens and tens. There's really heaps of parks, including the beautiful Botanic Garden, which is gigantic. We have a video about that if you want to check it out. So yeah, so just the pace of living, the quality of life in Christchurch is really good. So I would definitely consider Christchurch as well. Just because basically, so far, in my opinion, it does have the advantages of both of the other one as well, because it's so easy to go everywhere, because it's so easy to do all the paperwork and all of that. So that would be a good place. But the last one we're going to suggest you, because we don't want to overwhelm you with too many suggestions, would be Wanaka. What do you like about Wanaka, Laura?
Yeah, so the good thing about Wanaka is that it's sort of in the heart of all that beautiful South Island scenery that I'm sure you've seen loads of pictures of. It's surrounded by mountains, lakes. So, you know, if you want to actually feel like you're living in that perfect postcard picture, then Wanaka is a good place to go. It's nearby Queenstown, which we wouldn't really recommend for you to actually start your time in New Zealand because that's more expensive, but a good alternative is Wanaka because it's a little bit more affordable and a lot quieter, but still bearing in mind that it is a touristy place. So that does mean that the cost of living is a little bit higher over there. Yeah, so you're still going to have to pay your sort of tourist rates for all your food and groceries and things like that. And yeah, it's obviously a desirable place to live in. So the cost of rent is quite high, but there is some even smaller towns around Wanaka. I hope I pronounced this right, but Hawera. Yeah. So there's a few smaller towns that you could try out around that area. Or in the region of Otago, which is sort of where Queenstown is based, all the way up to the coast where Dunedin is. So all that area has loads of little small towns, which would be more affordable, but you still feel like you're in like the awesome New Zealand scenery, which I know that most people come to New Zealand is because it's such a beautiful place. So if you could, you would love to be surrounded by beautiful scenery. So yeah, that's but for things to do around Wanaka, obviously there's a lot of hikes. There's the lake, so you can, a lot of people own paddle boards and kayaks around there, so they go kayaking and things like that. And it's also got a lot of adventure activities. There's skydiving. Obviously, you don't want to spend all your money straight away on those sort of things, but there is that option to do that. And it's also sort of a ski field town in winter. So if you're into skiing, they're nearby some ski fields that you can go and do that as well. So there's a lot of action-packed stuff that you could be doing around Wanaka.
All right, so this will be our 4 suggestions. If you did find that useful, Monica, click like, click subscribe. Make sure to leave us a comment and tell us if that's what you wanted to hear or not. And if you guys have any questions, like, subscribe. Come on, be cool. We're going to go through the live chat right now. Do you want to pull that up? I look? Okay, so what is happening here? Mudrika wants to know if you should go to Rotorua from Waitomo or should I go to Taupo instead? Honestly, both of them are about a similar drive from Waitomo.
Depends what you want to do, I think.
Taupo is going to be a little bit further. So Rotorua is going to have plenty of entertainment for you. Taupo is more of like a lakeside town. If you're into fishing, and that's pretty much it. You go there, but both the drive is very similar. So it looks like he is asking about the drive. It's about similar.
Yeah.
And then Natalia is asking on Route 94, which is the one between Te Anau and Milford Sound. Is it suitable for motorhome? I would like to point you out, Natalia, to our video about the road to Milford Sound. We did a whole video with our motorhome about the road, so you can see everything about that. So if you go on our channel, there's a little search bar. You just type Milford Sound and you'll find that. But yeah, it's definitely suitable for motorhome.
Huge buses go down there all the time. Just note that there's a lot of one-way bridges on the way there. So obviously just
take your time.
Take your time. It's a winding road, can get narrow in places. So if everyone on the road is taking their time and stuff, then everyone's going to be safe.
So check out our video. We did quite a few pit stops, which are really cool. There is, I think, 17 places that are actually worth stopping at on the way. So make sure you check that out. It's really cool. We also link to a couple of articles below as well. So check that. But definitely motorhome, definitely easy. Now, Veronica, hiya. How do you say that? Hiya. She said, I was wondering if it's suitable and safe to cycling path to get around pretty much anywhere. They try.
Not pretty much anywhere.
No.
But there are some places definitely that you can cycle. So if you, we actually do have a lot of cycling articles on BackpackerGuide.NZ, and if you, we'll make sure we link it after this video, but just for now, if you just search bike trails in the North Island, bike trails in the South Island, and that's basically where we list all the multi-day trails. So you can actually cover a lot of distance on bikes, and that takes you mainly on old railway routes. So you're not cycling on the road. It's usually old railway paths, and it's like now turned into a bit of a gravel road. And that can take you to some really cool places across the country, long distance. So you actually get to see quite a lot of the country, but also be away from being on the roads. Because the thing about the roads, like the state highways in New Zealand, Kiwis aren't really used to a lot of cyclists.
They're not good. They're definitely not good with cyclists. They don't give you enough space. It's not that much fun. It's rather dangerous. And when there are cycle paths, they can be just like 300 meters of a cycle path, and then it's completely stop, and you're just in the middle of the highway. And it does happen very often. So cycling your way around New Zealand is not necessarily super awesome. I have to be honest. It's more something that you have your bike in the car, you make your way to selected biking areas, and then you bike and you enjoy that. That's more what it is for that, Veronica. And in towns, Auckland has quite a few like cycling ways and stuff like that. But same thing. It's not definitely a mode of transportation. It stops too often. It's too half-assed to actually be a feasible means of transportation around New Zealand. But that's basically that for the cycling stuff. Should we go through another question?
Sure.
All right. So on YouTube, Tamas99 asks, what type of job are mostly available for international students in Christchurch, New Zealand?
It's quite a lot.
It's all about Christchurch today. All right, cool. All right. So jobs for students in Christchurch, I think we pick like the 4 biggest industry that would be attracting students for working in Christchurch. And the first one would be construction work.
So as you might have heard that in Christchurch a few years ago, there was a huge earthquake which did sort of destroy a few buildings here and there. So they're still through the rebuild process at the moment. So that actually means that there's quite a lot of construction jobs. But obviously being an international student, you're not going to have a lot of experience behind you. You're going to want to try and find some entry-level jobs. And surprisingly, actually, construction, there is a lot of entry-level jobs in construction that you can do if you're a student. Do you want to talk more about that?
All right, cool. So, yes, in construction, there is something called hammer hand, which is literally kind of the assistant of the builder. And this requires almost no qualification, and it's something that you're going to learn a lot on the job, which is quite cool. And that's one of the jobs which are like literally require no qualification and are very handy and easy to get. So, so definitely doing that. Good idea. There is also a lot of traffic control jobs, because when you have a construction site, usually you need to divert the traffic. And when you need to divert the traffic, when you need a lot of manpower to make sure that the car are behaving properly. That's those guys that hold a stick that says the green and red on top, and that's basically what it is. It's so, it's a job which actually has a lot of risk component apparently to it, and also you're outdoors, so it's usually pretty well paid. You can make up to like $45 an hour just holding that sign, which is quite amazing for a student job. So it's definitely worth looking at that. Now, for most of the construction jobs, you will have to go through recruitment agencies, because it's much easier for the builders and everything to find their help through recruitment agencies. And recruitment agencies also do all the paperwork for them, so they make sure you have the right visas and all of that. Now, before I talk about the rest, I'm going to talk quickly about visas. You have to remember that on the student visa, you're going to have some very strict work conditions. You won't be able to work as much as you want. You have to stick to that. If you don't, your employer will be faced with fines. You will be faced with fines and potential deportation. So it's really bad. So you have to make sure that you stick to that, because we've heard a lot of time of students that even after studying 2-3 years, they don't get their diploma. Bam, you were deported straight away because you didn't respect your condition of your visas. So make sure you do that. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of construction company pass through recruitment agencies, because they just basically make sure that all the paperwork is done properly. So yeah, construction job, really good job for students in Christchurch. What's the next one on the list?
Yeah, so another one that you could do in Christchurch is retail jobs. So obviously Christchurch is the biggest city in the South Island, which means there's a lot of shops. There's a big shopping centre like in the centre of Christchurch. Then you'll find lots of shopping centres in the suburbs and things. So there really is a lot of opportunity for working in shops. And Robin is the expert in retail, so I think Robin should take this one away as well.
All right. So retail jobs doesn't just include cashier. So obviously that's the number one kind of job in retail. You're just going to be a cashier. You're just going to be ringing all the items and asking for some money to people. It's the simplest job ever. And it's pretty good because usually you work selected shifts, so you can say which shift you're available and all of that. So it is quite handy, but there's plenty of other jobs. You can be a salesperson, like especially in kind of clothing shop and stuff like that. They always kind of need hands. I need help with that. But there is also all the warehousing side of jobs. So when you actually work at the back and you prepare all the orders, you are unloading trucks, you even work at a big warehouse where you're loading truck to go toward the shop. So there is a lot of those as well, which a lot of people kind of forget about. There's many different type of jobs. So even if you're not a people person, you can still work retail rather easily. Now, one of the good thing about retail is that if you arrive around the summertime or a little bit before the summertime, so you're talking October, November, this is when shop need to hire a ton of people to cover for the extra hours, for the holidays of their staff, for the fact that more people are going to go shopping, and so you will get very easily a job in retail during that period of the year. And if you do a good job, there is a strong incentive for them to actually keep you. And it's a great way for you to kind of get a job very easily and keep the job for a long time. So definitely worth thinking about it when you are looking for jobs. I think retail jobs are definitely worth thinking about when being a student, because they're really flexible as well. Usually you just work shift, and if you're smart enough and you work in a place that you do like I really like video games, so I will work in a video game shop, so I get my staff discount. So that's always good.
Right, so another one you could do is hospitality work. So that's actually a really good type of job to do if you are a student, because usually you can get there's a lot of part-time work in hospitality, so you will have the time to go to your classes and stuff. And then there's a lot of evening jobs. If you're working in bars or restaurants, you can do a lot of jobs on the evening. And also you can do part-time jobs in cafes, because often when you are a student, you do have full days off in the middle of the week here and there, where it's usually that's the time when you can go and work in cafes and things. And again, it's another thing where it's an entry-level job. So if you have no experience behind you, you can still go and do working in cafes and and restaurants and stuff like that. And also included in hospitality is tourism jobs as well. So if you're doing reception work in hotels, for instance, or at travel desks, there's lots of different ones that you can there's a lot really encompassed in what hospitality is, and there sure is a lot to do in hospitality in Christchurch. Is there anything you'd like to add to hospitality, Robin?
Hospitality is usually one of the jobs which actually match the best with student hours.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So I personally feel like it's one of the best, and that's why it's the most popular job for students. So definitely, if you were to consider one job, go for hospitality.
So next up, our final suggestion really, which is completely different to anything that we've already suggested, is doing some farming work. So this is going to feel a lot different to your everyday life as an international student. Obviously, as a student, you will be based sort of in the center of Christchurch, where you have access to the university. But if you really want to get that New Zealand outdoorsy experience, and you do have your own car, because you will need to have your own car transport in order to get to work, then there's actually a lot of farming jobs available surrounding Christchurch, because the whole area around Christchurch is known as the Canterbury Plains, and it's just basically called that because there's plains and plains and fields of farming. So there's lots of different types of farming you can be doing. There's dairy farming, and the list goes on. I'm only going to name one because that's all I can think of right now. But So for dairy farming, we actually do have a video which we'll link up in the rebroadcast, just to show you what that's like, because it's a little bit like factory work. You're sort of just, like getting these pumps onto the cows, which takes out the milk. It's really an interesting industry. So there's lots of those sort of farming things to do. And again, it's an entry-level job. There's lots of odd jobs that need to be done on the farm. So again, if you do want to get your sort of outdoorsy experience, and usually it does pay quite well as well, then farming around Christchurch is a good way to go.
Sorry.
So yeah, I think that's it for farming. Have you got any other?
No, I mean, I think working farming job is a very good idea for students. A lot of people forget about the fact that it will help you stand out so much from employers later on, because every single CV is, I was a student and I was a waiter at the same time, But if you actually did some farming job, you learn a lot about work and life experiences as it goes, and you really stand out. There's a lot of transferable skills. So if you know how to kind of work that out into your CV, that's definitely going to help you a ton. So I cannot stress enough how much this will make you stand out. So I think considering a farming job as a student would be really smart for you to actually do. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If this was a helpful answer to you, Tarmas99, click like, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching us. And any of your questions, make sure to put them in the comment below so we can get to it next week. Now, so we had quite a few questions on the live chat right now. Editha, go. Yeah, so I'll give you the answer. Basically,
Uber doesn't go to the Auckland airport anyway.
Yeah, they don't.
They're not allowed.
Yeah, you have to walk out of the airport. It's a nightmare. Don't use Uber.
Yeah.
Just to jump on the super shuttle. I think it's gonna be $35 to get you down to the Auckland CBD at the door of your hotel.
On Backpacker Guide, we have a perfect article that will answer this question. If you just go into BackpackerGuide.NZ and type in cheapest transport Auckland Airport, you will find an article which gives you all the information for Super Shuttle, for the Sky Bus, for taxis, for Uber, and you'll get all your options there, and you'll be able to pick out which one is the best one for you.
So the article looks like this. Boom! Look at that, editor. All ready for you. So if you go on that, we actually detail all of that with all the costs and all the options. That's going to be easy. And then she also asked, is internet on the go really fast? And I can tell you, it is not.
It's not really fast.
No,
it's doable. It's okay, but it
will be frustrating. It's frustrating for the beginning, that's for sure. Okay, now we had one last question that we're going to take from the live chat, and that is an itinerary.
I did see that one.
And that's from Mudrika. All right, so Mudrika Shandangi. Oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Mudrika, we're going to stick with that. Mudrika says on YouTube, I have 9 days between landing and departing from Auckland. I want to travel both the islands in these days. Can you please suggest the best way for me to do this? I come in February. All right, let's get started. First up, February. That's a little bit late, my friends. I think you should have planned a little bit earlier. But okay, I think it's gonna go Auckland to Rotorua, Tapo Napier. Yeah.
Doing both islands.
Yeah.
Okay.
Napier Wellington. And then Wellington Christchurch. Yeah, Wellington Christchurch. Christchurch Queenstown. And then I'm going to get him to go to Greymouth and then getting back there.
Yeah,
I think that's going to work. And you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you have some spare time to do this and that. Yeah, boom, that works.
That's going to be a tight one.
All right.
I think the first thing to just note here is that with only 9 days in New Zealand, trying to do both islands is going to be a really hectic and quite exhausting time. Yeah. You need to be okay with doing a lot of driving. Otherwise, I would suggest picking one island and sticking to it. Even if you are arriving in Auckland, if you only want to see the South Island, just take a flight to Christchurch. and do a trip around there, and you'll get more time to actually really experience the South Island. Likewise, on the North Island, 9 days on the North Island, there's still a lot to do there. But yeah, since you have specified that you do want to do 2 islands, we'll do our best to try and give you an itinerary, but it is going to be a really tight one.
To be fair, this one would be really easy to do with an intercity bus pass as well. So if you don't want to be driving and you want to take the bus, you can also do it that way.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So you're probably going to be arriving in Auckland. You said you're arriving in Auckland and you're going to be leaving from Auckland. So I will definitely do it that way. So you arrive in Auckland and then you make your way toward Rotorua. If you really want to see Lord of the Rings location, you can stop on the way to Hobbiton. And in Rotorua, there is plenty of cultural stuff to do. This is all the Maori places. This is also where you have all the geothermal stuff to do. So, you probably going to have about like a late evening. So when you're going to arrive, basically you drive right here, Auckland, down stop at Hobbiton, then arrive in Rotorua, do one of those Maori evening. I suggest Tamaki, for example.
Yeah.
Then in the morning when you wake up, you go to one of the geothermal area, and then you drive, you go to visit one of the geothermal area, and then you drive to Taupo. When you arrive in Taupo, if you want a bit of adventure, this is where you're going to have one of the cheapest skydive in the country, actually. And it goes up to 20,000 feet, which is quite amazing. You're going to see the beautiful big lake. You're going to see Mount Tongariro, which is Mordor in the Lord of the Rings, which is absolutely stunning. It's a great place to kind of relax a little bit because already here, this is going to be pretty intense. Then you can drive toward Napier and go try some really awesome wine. Just to drive through, we actually talked about it a little bit earlier during this video. Just drive through is absolutely amazing. You can also see the beautiful Gannet colony over there. What else would you do in Napier?
In Napier, you can go around the Art Deco capital of New Zealand. So the town itself has got some really awesome architecture, like Art Deco style. So that's really cool to go check out. And that's a good thing that you can check out really quickly if you haven't got much time throughout the day. The Gannet colony, that is a good like half a day hike. So you do need some time for that. Alternatively, you can take a tractor tour, which would be quicker and better for all the negotiating the tide times, because that is reliant on the tide.
If you do that, you will need to take the tractor. Then you drive down to Wellington. Will take you quite a while, but it's another beautiful drive. So you can stop along the way to some wind farm, which is quite interesting. And there is plenty of really short walks. But when you arrive in Wellington, check out the Te Papa Museum. It's free and it's a really amazing museum. So that's probably going to take you the afternoon there. And then on the very next day, you hop on the ferry, which is going to bring you to Picton and drive all the way down to Christchurch.
So here's the ferry, arrives in Picton, and then you've got a very long drive down to Christchurch.
Now, on the way, you can stop to Kaikoura. You can see some amazing wildlife. You can see you can go swim with dolphins or see some dolphins. You can go whale watching. You can go see a beautiful seal colony, and all of that. You're going to need to book it in advance, though. Again, if you're actually traveling this February, literally at the end of this video, you need to book everything. It's not a joke. You go on our website and you check what are the best accommodation in all those places. You click on the link, you book. You check out what are the things to do in all those places. It's all on our website. You click on the link, you book. You really need to do that today because February is the busy season in New Zealand and everything is already almost fully booked. You're asking us that, and it's the 27th of January. That is really late, late. So I can't stress that enough. Okay, now you arrive in Christchurch. Honestly, with this long drive right now, you will have no time to do anything in Christchurch, but you're going to be spending the night there. And then you hop back on the car on the next day and you do one of the most beautiful drive of the country. Now, throughout this drive right here, you will go to Mount Cook, which is New Zealand's tallest mountain. There is some really awesome things to do here. You can hop in the plane and do a Mount Cook 360, which flies around Mount Cook. You're going to see all the beautiful snowy-capped Southern Alps. It's absolutely stunning. You're going to see some beautiful lakes. You can also stop by Lake Tekapo and the Church of the Good Shepherd. It's a great pit stop. It's not something you're going to be spending much time there, but it's going to be really, really awesome and really beautiful. Ton of amazing pictures. And then you're going to arrive in Queenstown. Now, this same thing is going to be a whole day drive, but all those drives that I say are going to be a whole day. It's kind of an activity. There's just so much to do along the way.
There's a lot of reasons to stop. I would say if there's anything to miss off that, if you are struggling for time, because going to Mount Cook is actually quite a detour. It's about an hour detour off the main route. So if you want to do some scenic flights, that's really quick and easy to do. Go to Lake Tekapo. They've got an airport there where they do some scenic flights. They also have some walks, some hot pools there. They even do jet boat rides and things like that there now. So if you're struggling for time, that's probably a good place to stop is Tekapo rather than Mount Cook. But if you do have the time, Mount Cook is really worth getting to.
Yeah, I really like Mount Cook.
Yeah.
Now, when you're in Queenstown, you can take yourself one day to go down to Milford Sound and coming back. It's a one-day tour. Now, for this one, I suggest you take the bus because you're going to be sick of driving and you can enjoy the scenery even better. So you go down to Milford Sound, one of the most beautiful places on earth. You do a quick cruise and then you come back up. It's a day tour. It's absolutely stunning. Then you're going to drive all the way on the west coast, which will allow you to stop either at Fox or Franz Joseph Glacier. Glacier hike is definitely worth doing in New Zealand. It's a stunning thing to do. And you finish in Greymouth. Now, again, every time you have drive, but you have one activity. And then after, you drive Arthur Pass, which is really amazing. One of the best drive in the world. Stunning. A lot of really amazing pit stop along the way. And you're back in Christchurch. And then from Christchurch, you fly to Auckland. And then off you go. This is, in our opinion, the best way to do all of New Zealand in 8 to 10 days. So in between, there's some places you can cut. And that's our opinion on how to do it. But again, if you're planning on traveling in February, you're already too late, mate. So you really need to start booking it. Now, there's plenty of activities along the way. It's not going to be the cheapest thing to do, but every single time you have some of those activities, you can replace them with a hike. You can replace them with some free and cheap things to do. And the best place to get started to find where those things are is our website. So it's BackpackerGuide.NZ. And we have a whole category of free and cheap things to do in every single area. So definitely worth considering.
Yeah.
Now, was it what you wanted to know, Madrika? Did it help you plan an 8 to 10 days trip around New Zealand? I think that this is a really good looking map. Honestly, it's very clear.
It looks action-packed.
It's action-packed. There's plenty to do. So I'm proud of us for the map. I'm proud of you for getting such an amazing itinerary. I think this is worth a like. Come on. This is pretty awesome. Anyway, right. So if you do have any questions, make sure you put them in the comment below. We're also going to put some links because we actually have a similar itinerary to that as an article on the website. So I think this is going to be a great place for you to start, Madrika. Now, this is the end of our live chat. But before we finish, Editha has the last question about what food should you try in New Zealand. And guess what? We actually did a video about that not that long ago. Yeah. So Editha, if you just browse the channel, we actually just received this question about like 3 weeks ago. And we did a whole 10 minutes about that with all the food that we think you need to try. So make sure you check this one out. Browse a little bit of the channel. We have this question already answered. And if you do have some follow-up questions, whatever videos you guys watch, put them in the comment below. We pick them up like we did today. We pick up the questions from here because that's what you guys need to, and because we're only here an hour a week, so it may not be convenient for you. So make sure to put that in any of the comments of any other video. Put your questions, and we'll pick it up for next week. Absolutely. When are we here next week?
Well, speaking of...
What a segue.
What? So first of all, New Zealand time, we are here at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. But in the rest of the world, that is actually 2 p.m. EST in the USA on a Saturday. That's also Saturday at 11 a.m. PST in the USA. In Europe, it's generally around the time of 7 p.m. on a Saturday. That might be, an hour difference here and there, but just around 7 p.m. So make sure you Google it to make sure in your country. And then finally, in India, it is 12:30 a.m. I'm guessing that's on a Sunday a.m.
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know. Guys, tell us. I get so lost with those times. It's just like bonkers.
But yeah, the main thing is New Zealand time, 8 a.m. Google it, what time that is where you are, and be there.
Yeah, be there or be square.
Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us one more time. We are stoked to have you on board every single week. You guys are gracing us with your presence, and it's awesome. So thanks again. Don't forget to like and subscribe all the time. You guys rock. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.